live on your tablet, phone, and the KUTV app. This is 2 News Live.
Great to be with you here live at Salt Lake City International Airport. I'm Brian Schnee. It is a chilly January 2nd. However, we still can't get any snow here in Utah. That to be discussed at another time. We're talking about a security breach here at the airport led to a very bizarre situation that unfolded here last night. It involved a flight full of passengers basically having to find other plans to get to their destination. A short flight to San Francisco nonetheless, but still a canceled process for travelers, and then ultimately being rebooked onto another flight. We're going to go in depth on this, and once we get there, we will have team coverage on this tonight. But in the meantime, if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can use the hashtag 2NewsLive to join the conversation. You can always find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, or even on TikTok. If you like that sort of thing, you can find us there too. So let's get into this, because this is a very unique situation that involved one individual basically breaching security here at the airport and making his way onto the tarmac towards a plane. Christian Sita picks it up from here after speaking to police about security. What happened here, Christian?
Yeah, that's right, Brian. The death of a traveler is raising concerns about security and safety here at the airport. The Salt Lake Police Department is responsible for law enforcement here at the airport, and the Administrative Director, Brent Weisberg, explains that safety and security is always the priority. According to the investigation so far, the Salt Lake PD says everything worked as it should have in the case.
So, Christian, what did police tell you about how they were able to find the trespasser?
Yeah, Brian, so police told me that they confirmed actually that the person used the emergency exit, and the alarm was triggered when the individual was able to make it out, and that prompted the staff to call the police department, and they're working on that investigation right now as we speak. And they told me that they have a great relationship with all the airlines here at the airport.
Christian Sita reporting live for us tonight on 2 News Live. Christian, thank you. Again, to reiterate what took place here, man left through an emergency exit, got into a secure location, and then ultimately got into an engine combine area, which the turbines were not running at that point, but they did find him unconscious. And then ultimately, he did not make it. He died. So there's a bunch of information that we're trying to line up and talk about the pieces of this investigation. Police talked about that a little bit today.
Our officers are now going to go back in time to develop a timeline of this individual, specifically when he arrived at the airport, looking at his demeanor to see if there was anything unusual. As for the specific disturbance at the airport store, that remains under investigation. We don't know if he had any interaction with anybody, if anything was said, but after that initial disturbance, our officers have learned that he did leave that initial location inside the secured part of the terminal and then left using an emergency exit that is inside the terminal. That emergency exit took him down onto the ramp area where you will have authorized airport employees, airline employees working to facilitate the effective operation of Salt Lake City's International Airport.
That man identified Kyler Effinger, 30 years old, last known to be a resident of Park City. It is believed that he did move, though. We were doing some digging into his current situation, believed he may have lived in Idaho. He was a ticketed passenger and was supposed to be on board a flight to Denver when all of this went down. All right, Ariel Harrison joining me now, also looking into this today as we go in depth here on 2 News Live. You spoke to some passengers today. I obviously would imagine they would be very shocked about this whole situation, but also an airline mechanic. What was interesting about that conversation in terms of the ease of access to getting into the engine combine?
Well, the tarmac area that's behind us, it's heavily restricted, something that the airplane mechanic who spent 15 years working as a licensed airplane mechanic kind of described to me, just that workers like he himself and people who are working with baggage, very educated on where they're allowed to be, where they're not. It's heavily restricted even for them. So for the general public, someone like a passenger to access that was shocking to him. Same with passengers though, Brian. There were 95 people on that flight that they were, we've all been on a flight where they're de-icing, they're in that process. That's what these passengers were experiencing at the time that this man crawled into that engine. So very bizarre on both.
I think a lot of people are wondering, how did this man pass away, right? I think there's a lot of things that we're trying to figure out here in the investigation, because an engine cowling isn't very hard to get into. You or I could do it based on our height, and it's really not that hard to climb up and get in there. Luckily, the turbines were not spinning. Is there anything else the mechanic said to you today that you found interesting? Just
kind of what you shared. I mean, you think of airplanes, you might be able to picture a little bit where the engine is, but he pointed out on these Airbus 220 that Delta said was involved in this particular incident. He showed us where that engine is located, and yeah, it's pretty accessible, not difficult to climb into. Just thank heavens it wasn't running in the time. Bad man passed away, but a lot of questions as to why he was there in the first place.
Accessible if you are granted the access to that area, but for most of us, we are not granted that access to be in that location. Ariel, thank you. Of course, you can find more of this information on our website right now, KUTV.com. If you'd like to learn more, we've been updating some of the articles throughout the day. Very easy to do so, because as soon as we learned the information from Salt Lake City Police, they confirmed the man's identity to us and give us some more information. You can find it there, KUTV.com. We've updated it for you on our website. So, moving on to some of the other news here, because the airport, we've done a number of stories on certain incidents that have taken place here over the last year or so, specifically one that's relatively high profile involving a former Delta co-pilot who is set to appear now in federal court on Thursday. This was after an incident happened here at the airport back in last year in 2022, well, 2024 now, so let's say more than a year ago at this point. A Utah grand jury indicted him for allegedly pulling a gun on the captain while they were flying. You may remember this. His name is Jonathan Dunn. According to the U.S. Department of Transportation, Dunn and the plane's captain disagreed about diverting the flight due to a passenger's medical emergency. Officials say Dunn used his weapon to assault and intimidate the captain, saying they would be shot multiple times if the flight was diverted. Now, Dunn was part of the federal flight deck officer program, which in certain pilots means that they are authorized to carry guns and firearms for security. Let's show you some remarkable video, and it's not for the right reasons, but this is not here in Salt Lake City. This is overseas. At least 5 people are dead in Japan after an airline plane there burst into flames at Tokyo's Haneda Airport. This is one of the busiest airports in the entire world, and the video is remarkable, something you don't see often, that's for sure. The plane had just arrived from northern Japan with 379 passengers and crew on board when it collided with a Japanese Coast Guard aircraft. Some video from inside the cabin actually shows smoke inside moments before evacuation chutes deployed, and all of the people on board the plane were able to escape to safety. But 5 members of the Japanese Coast Guard crew who were on their way to provide earthquake relief to people in Japan's northwest coast were killed. It took crews 6 hours to put out the fire. It is just staggering to hear what has been going on in Japan over the last few days, to cap it off with a catastrophe such as this. Back here in the United States, very busy time to be traveling, including here at Salt Lake City's International Airport, where depending on the day, they were expecting maybe 30,000 people to travel either in or out of the airport here. Today was relatively busy for people arriving back in Utah, presumably after the New Year holiday. Very busy weekend at U.S. airports. Let's look at some of the numbers. According to the TSA, more than 2.6 million people went through TSA security checkpoints nationwide on the Friday before New Year's Eve. That was 2.5 million on Saturday, 2.1 million on Sunday. The TSA is expecting to screen a high number of passengers tonight as well as people return home from holiday travel. I will tell you, if you're leaving right now or know somebody that's leaving, no issues here at the airport. Let's get to your weather though, because I can tell you one thing. It is chilly here in Salt Lake City right now, and we are heavily inverted. You can see the evidence of the inversion, Chase Thomason, but just not getting the snow that I so badly want to start the new year.
We're going to get it. Just wait another 24 to 48 hours, and we have several storms lined up. And as you mentioned, Brian, we are inverted, and the lowest point in the valley is right around the airport, and that's where that coldest air is trapped. So it is a little chilly, but it's been a bit milder along some of our benches, kind of out of the inversion just a bit, where we climbed into the mid-40s for today. You can still see a little bit of that haze here in the Salt Lake Valley. Look at the Ochre Mountains from Draper, and we want that haze to go away. And again, the haze will eventually go away with all the storms that are lined up. It looks like a very unsettled pattern shaping up maybe for the next week or two. Now, temperatures today made it into the mid-40s. So for January, this is well above average. How about some 50s across southwestern Utah, a little bit cooler towards the east, with vernal at 37 degrees. Now, here's what we're tracking. Again, we're tracking 3 storms this week, but there are more storms for next week. So again, the active pattern continues. But storm number 1 moves in for tomorrow into Thursday. That's taking more of a southerly track, so biggest impacts will be across portions of central and southern Utah. Storm number 2 moves in sometime around Friday afternoon, and that could bring a little bit of snow potentially to the Wasatch Front. But it's storm number 3 that will have the biggest impact, potentially statewide, arriving late Saturday, could linger into Sunday night, maybe even to Monday morning. So we have a lot to go over, including this storm right here that is just to our west. The cloud cover rolls in for tonight, but the rain and snow hold off until tomorrow afternoon for western and southern Utah. We might get a few flurries tomorrow afternoon or evening. The best chance will be south of Salt Lake, but we got rain and snow down in southern Utah. We could see a couple inches towards Cedar City and Beaver. That'll be probably the best area to see some of that snow through Thursday morning and across portions of the Four Corners. Northern Utah, just these hit or miss snow showers that will linger through Thursday afternoon. Then we have that Friday storm that begins to roll in late Friday morning, could peak during the Friday evening commute for northern and central Utah. Don't know if we're going to get a whole lot with that Friday storm down south. But here's how much snow you can expect through Thursday. Right now it looks like maybe 1 to 3, 1 to 4 for some of those valleys of southwestern Utah. All rain though down in St. George, and maybe a dusting or an inch of snow in northern Utah. But with that Friday wave, we could see another dusting to a couple inches. So by Friday night, you can see not a ton of snow here in Utah, but at least it's something. And of course, it will be accumulating in the mountains where we'd like to see it. Now, as we head into the weekend, though, right now, Saturday does look quiet until Saturday night. That's when the colder storm begins to move in, and this could be widespread snow. It also has some much colder air with it, so it'll be a lot easier to stick to those roadways. So think about that if you are traveling on Sunday. So we'll have snow across a good chunk of the state, and we might even see a rain-snow mix down in St. George on Sunday, and then again lingering through Monday morning. So stay tuned on totals. Still a ways out to say exactly, but that one could be a little bit more significant for the valleys and the mountains. St. George, we got rain for tomorrow. Could see a couple isolated showers on Thursday. 40s for highs for the rest of the week. Saturday, mostly sunny, and then we have rain and snow showers on Sunday. 41 degrees. Gets even colder early next week with highs near 40 and overnight lows in the teens and 20s in St. George. That's cold for you. Still hazy for one more day in Salt Lake, and then we have some snow showers on and off on Thursday, maybe some snow for Friday afternoon and evening, upper 30s for highs, and then Saturday night and into Sunday, first alert weather day for accumulating snowfall impacting those roads. Stay tuned. Gets chilly, 32 on Sunday, 28 on Monday, and yes, another storm moves in Tuesday and into Wednesday for northern Utah. So they're lined up pretty much every other day. We have snow chances. Some are stronger than others, some just some light snow, but good clean air and some cold temperatures moving in, Brian.
All right, Chase, that's a good way to start 2024. Obviously, to move that inversion away a little bit with those storms kind of cycling through a la last year, right, where we didn't have much inversion. So
that's right.
Looking forward to seeing how those snow totals shake up here throughout the course of the week. Thank you, Chase. Remember, as you want to learn more about the forecast, all you have to do is grab that phone that you can have right at the palm of your hand and download the 2 News weather app today. Very easy to do. You can learn about your 7-day forecast, what's coming up your way. And as we learn more about the storms, as they start to move through, you can find out on the app as well if you're missing them in between our newscasts. Back out here live at Salt Lake City International Airport. If you missed any of our coverage tonight as we went in depth on an incident that happened here last night that involved a man losing his life after he left through an emergency exit at the airport, went into a restricted area, ultimately crawled up into an engine cowling and was found unconscious and then later died. A very bizarre situation. We've got more information on our website, KUTV.com. We will continue to stay on this, and as we learn more, we'll bring it to you. I'm Brian Schnee. Have a great rest of your evening. If you're joining me live here on 2 News Live, I'll see you in about an hour on Arc Salt Lake. Join us for that. See you in a few.
Arizona, I mean, being ranked top 10 in the country all year.
With the lay-in.
Petritus is so fun to watch as the Falcons get beat back.
Oh, how about this guy, huh? Not package so far. Maybe a jumper, anything from the elbow. Or here comes another steal. Utah State dunking it home. Mason Falslev with the.
Here's a player that could really light it up for the Falcons too. If he starts to get hot, man, can he fill it up.